Hi everyone, welcome to Leisrealtalk. Can you guys hear me all right? I was trying to send a message and then I got an error message saying that YouTube is temporarily not allowing me to send message. I have no idea why that happened. I hope you guys can watch me all right. Okay. All right. Happy weekend. I think during last week I was asked about the impact of the tragic ending of the Wagner Group head, Prigozhin, the impact of his tragic ending on Xi Jinping. At the time, I did not answer his question. Um, a few days later, I was studying another subject, and I realized the Wagner Group has had a big impact or a bigger impact on China and Chinese people than people have realized. And I think the impact on Xi Jinping isn't small either. So today we'll talk about Xi Jinping's biggest fear and his mental state, because he has been extremely concerned with being assassinated. And his fear came from the fact that many Chinese prophecies have predicted his ending. And also the fact that so many people are opposing him. So tonight we will discuss three topics. First, we'll talk about why Xi Jinping missed the speech at the BRICS summit. And then we'll talk about his biggest fear, which is assassination. And then we'll talk about his mental state. All right, so there's a lot of information. I put together slides. I have uploaded a video, and I also have a link. I hope I could manage all these supporting materials. All right. So his absence from a high-profile speech that he was scheduled to deliver at the BRICS summit was widely reported by Western media, and they call it unusual, strange, and amiss. Because CCP leaders do not miss a highly choreographed event like that. Meanwhile, China's state media did not mention a word about his absence. They reported as if Xi gave the speech. By the way, I do have some pictures to show you. People generally commented on how tired and dispirited Xi Jinping looked in South Africa. So here's a picture. There's another picture. And even people comment that Cai Qi, the man who's running the CCP household for him, also looked very down, serious, heavy, and down. This picture, I mean, he was trying to smile, but you could tell it's a very forced smile. But anyways, he missed his speech, but the CCP media reported as if he gave the speech. And you could see this. This is the post by the former spokeswoman from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And she posted as if she gave the speech. And here's a picture. By the way, she accompanied him to Johannesburg. So she was there. Now, Xi Jinping obviously doesn't want people to know that he missed the speech, right? So all the media pretended he gave it. But I think the reason he didn't want people to know that he missed the speech is because of the reason why the real reason behind that. And the real reason, there has been a lot of talks in the Chinese media or social media in the past day or so. He didn't feel safe. He was afraid of his enemies. Of course, he was not afraid of the United States or some foreign countries sending assassins. He was more afraid of his enemies from within the CCP. Now, South Africa has many CCP spies and has been under the influence, or is a stronghold for the Jiang Zemin faction, now the Deng Qinghong faction. Take a look at this picture closely, if you can. Let me just make this bigger, maybe. No, I think this is as large as it can be. If you look at this picture, this would be the room. I mean, this was the room where he would be given the speech. There were hundreds, if not 1,000 people there, right? And who knows if there were some people that Xi Jinping didn't want to see or didn't feel safe being around. So if you look at this room, you could see why he could feel that it was not as controlled as he liked to be. The next day, his video went viral on social media as he walked to a plenary session at the summit on red carpet after the Indian Prime Minister Modi. His translator was stopped by security guard behind him. That video went viral. After the commotion, Xi Jinping turned around and stopped and hesitated and then decided to keep walking. I'm going to play that video for you just in case you have not seen it. I want to comment on it. Where did that video go? Oh, here it is. Add to stream. Okay, this is the video. Hold on. You guys can see, right? Okay, let me try to play that. Here we go. Let's play it. Here's his translator was being stopped, and then he realized he turned around. He was thinking, what was that? What was that? Should I continue? Maybe not. What's going on here? Well, what was that all about? Oh well, there is the president of South Africa waiting for him ahead. So he continued walking. And then they posed for the photo op. As this ends, he turned around and still looked at the door. Let me stop this. So that entire time he was thinking about the door, right? What happened outside. Well, if you knew his concern the day before, then you would know what was on his mind walking down. I calculated the distance from the door to where he shook hands with the president of South Africa. It was about 50 feet. Yeah, it was no more than 50 feet, which is quite short. Because he took 50 steps. I counted the number of steps he took. So assume each step is what? He took small steps. So each step is about a foot. So that's about 50 feet. And it's only about, 15 meters? Right, that's about 15 meters. So it's not a long distance, but it took him a while to walk down that red carpet. So let me talk about Xi Jinping's paranoia about his safety. Let me come back, make this smaller. Xi Jinping does have. Oh, sorry. Xi Jinping does have has extreme concern for his personal safety. He wasn't like that before he became the Chinese leader. He was rather relaxed. But having escaped a few assassination attempts in the early years of his term, and also being aware of the assassination attempts that his predecessor, Hu Jintao, had experienced, he had been very, very particular about security. He's said to have 300 bodyguards. Yeah, that's 300. Just his bodyguards. I mean, this does not include other security personnel. And he replaced female attendants serving the top leadership meetings with male attendants. So if you watch the party congress or other CCP conferences before maybe 2014, 2013, there were like female attendants, pouring tea or water for the delegates on stage, and he replaced them with male attendants, and these men play the double role of bodyguards in case of emergencies. The security layout of his trip is staggering. So during his visit to Hong Kong on July 1st, 2017, the police sent nearly 10,000 people on standby every day, including the Special Duties Unit, the Mobile Force, and the Counterterrorism Task Force. A helicopter or a number of helicopters were watching from the space above, and ambushers were stationed on the rooftop of buildings near his hotel, and he was surrounded by bodyguards. And last July, he paid a 2-day visit to Hong Kong, and he didn't spend the night in Hong Kong and returned to Shenzhen to stay overnight. Now, Hong Kong is part of China, and if he was so nervous, in his own country, you can imagine the paranoia when he traveled outside China. The anxiety has escalated recently at the 20th Party Congress in October last year. He mentioned the word security 68 times, up from 43 times 5 years ago in the previous Party Congress. And in the past 2 months, since June, this anxiety or fear has escalated, particularly after the Wagner Group's mutiny 2 months ago. I think the people inside China who oppose Xi Jinping have been greatly inspired by the event in June, by the mutiny staged by the Wagner Group 2 months ago. Now, the tragic ending of Prigozhin and his top leaders last week this week, shall we say? It's only Saturday, so this week might have intensified the conflict between Xi Jinping and his enemies, as both sides saw that compromising could be costly, right? So what the Chinese have figured out is if you want to overthrow someone, you just, if once your intention is shown, you can't back down. You just have to go full speed ahead. You cannot back down. And this is the tragedy that Prigozhin suffered. So why I said that there's such a concern on the part of Xi Jinping about organized efforts, right? Armed, organized efforts that threatens his security. Why do I say that? Well, this is because recently CCP propaganda has given us a hint. So on August 15th, my slides are not ordered in the, here it is. Here it is, yeah. My slides are not ordered in the right order, but anyways. On August 15th, which is only a week ago, right? It felt like so long ago because so many development has been happening in China almost on a daily basis. I have to choose what's relevant or what makes sense together to present them to you, but it feels like ages ago because I've followed this for a while. So on August 15th, Ministry of State Security posted on its social media account about a 2016 case involving a retired official from a school, from a higher education institute from the Yunnan province. This is the man that you're seeing on the screen. And accusing him of planning to purchase weapons from foreign countries and recruit so-called death squads in a bid to subvert state power. The Chinese authorities accused the man of carrying out Benghazi-style attack on China, or I think it's the Benghazi attack of China. That's the rough translation. that story kind of shocked Chinese people because it's really daring. I mean, for the first time in a long while, Beijing is admitting that there are subversive forces that organizing efforts with weapons and are hiring that are recruiting militia, right, to overthrow the state power. And that's shocking to Chinese. And this is coming from state-controlled media, from the Ministry of State Security. So many people are saying, well, what's going on? Now, it's odd that Beijing published an old case. This man, this accused man, Zisu, he was detained in October 2016 on suspicion of inciting subversion of state power and was later released from custody on bail. And in April 2017, he sent an open letter calling for a general election, and he nominated Hu Deping, the son of the late CCP General Secretary Hu Yaobang, for the top party leadership post. Now, that was like an open declaration to be against Xi Jinping, right? So he was sentenced to 4 years in prison in 2019, and he was released from prison in April 2021. Now, I don't believe the man committed a crime as serious as buying weapons to overthrow the government or hiring militiamen to form a death squad. Because if he did, he would not be given a 4-year sentence and would be released 2 years in advance. And yeah, this is the man that you're seeing on the screen. So why did the CCP using this old case, use somebody who didn't really commit a serious crime as they stated? Well, that means there must have been serious recent cases, or the recent cases that were as serious as the Benghazi-style attack targeting the regime, involving purchase of weapons, involving the so-called death squads, that Beijing doesn't want to talk about in detail for fear of causing people's interest and imitation. So they picked an old case that weren't violent in the first place, to assume that kind of a crime for publicity purpose. So this case was very, very interesting. Now, and then you say, well, are Chinese people really organizing to buy weapons? Well, I saw on the internet today that some Chinese are recruiting militiamen to fight for them. So let me share with you this picture that I saw today. Let me make myself a little smaller so you can see. This is a picture taken in Sichuan recently. It was posted, I think, on Twitter today, or X now, sorry. And it says, if you read the Chinese, it's hiring a Chinese, ethnic Chinese volunteer troop. They're recruiting people from the age of 25 to 50. Veterans are preferred, and has several rules, like you must give your a real contact, a real family member as a contact, and you must let me see, what does it say? It's so small I can't read. And you must be determined, and you must let your family know that you are joining this volunteer troop, and then and then it sounds like they're recruiting these militiamen to send them outside China, but they're fighting for the nation. And as far as the enemies, it says anti-humanity military, anti-humanity forces, anti-humanity groups, organizations. I mean, it does not say who it is, but just says anti-humanity. So it caused so much confusion, and people say, well, it doesn't sound like a CCP sanctioned recruiting effort. Because if it was government sanctioned or government sponsored, recruiting for militia, it would say government or CCP, or it will mention some kind of a government organization, right? It does not mention Chinese government whatsoever at all. And yet this language sounds, you know, very vague. So I was like, this is shocking. I mean, yeah, just picture like that. This man, I don't know if this man is a bystander, someone who walked by, took a picture with the post, or he was the organizer. I have no idea, but this looks real because you have a real picture with a with a poster, and then the poster is there. So now this tells me that the Ministry of State Security, what the post a week ago by the Ministry of State Security wasn't an over concern. It is happening in China, right? There's some kind of organization happening in China by the people to fight for some kind of cause. And it sounds like they are forming some kind of a armed organization to subvert some powers that they didn't elaborate or clarify. So now you know why Xi Jinping is so worried. And this is just one of the reasons, okay, that explains his fear of being assassinated. Now let me talk about Xi Jinping's the other contributing factor of his fear. So let me come back and talk a little bit. Let me get rid of this picture. All right, okay, let me come back. Let me, there's just a lot of information. I'm trying to cover them all. So Pulitzer Prize winner, there's a journalist who won a Pulitzer Prize. His name is Ian Jensen. He's very well known. He covers China. He won his Pulitzer Prize on his coverage of I think Falun Gong. Yeah, he in the very early years of the persecution, he wrote, I think, a series of articles on the persecution of Falun Gong, and I think he won that prize. He wrote on March 24th, 2017 in New York Times in an opinion titled, "What a Buddhist Monk Taught Xi Jinping." And he stated that Xi Jinping displayed a fascination with Buddhist martial arts, Qigong, and other mystical powers, as well as Buddhist sacred sites. And this is according to a childhood friend and a neighbor of Xi Jinping, who had a conversation with the American diplomat, and the conversation was transcribed, or the transcript of the conversation was released through WikiLeaks. This was all in the New York Times. You could read it. And the friend was extremely surprised by Xi Jinping's belief in supernatural forces. Now, I made a video on May 7th that talks about Xi Jinping's belief in feng shui and supernatural forces. And I talked about how he, through several of his favorite projects, and one is the Xiong'an project, the second capital of China, and the other is the construction of his father's mausoleum. So you can check my program on that. It's May 7th. But those projects are done. What matters now is he's very worried about a couple of old Chinese prophecies related to him. So there's a prophecy that predicted the end of the CCP dynasty, and it's based on a diagram from a book called Iron Plate Diagram. This book of prophecies predicted the fate of every dynasty, and so it was banned by several emperors in China. So let me go back to, oh, here it is. Let me make this bigger. So you want to look at these pictures in close detail. So this is the picture, the diagram that came from this book called Iron Plate Diagram. The reason why it's called iron plate is because, iron is like cast in iron, right? Casting stone, or it's like as solid as an iron plate. So that's the metaphor. The last engraving predicts the fate of the Red Dynasty, which is the CCP dynasty. It showed 5 birds, 4 black ones and 1 white. The 4 black birds flew in a line between 2 mountain peaks. The one on the left is the original painting. The one on the right is a sort of a blow-up version, a close-up version, to show you the 5 birds. The four black birds, and then there's a white bird, and then the white bird has crashed into one of the mountains, splashing blood on the cliff. So you see the splashes of red. People didn't know how to interpret this painting until Xi Jinping became the CCP leader, because the name Xi in traditional Chinese is made up of 2 components, white and feather. So he is the 5th CCP leader, and the 4 blackbirds were the 4 CCP leaders before him, and he's the last one, the white feather. And so this prophecy predicted that the CCP regime will end with Xi Jinping, and he would die on his term because of the splash of water. I mean, the splash of blood. So that's one prophecy that's very well known, and it's said that Xi Jinping knows about this prophecy about him. He knows. This book was in the private hands years ago, and then it was confiscated by the government. So this book was kept as a secret in the private hand, and then it was confiscated by the government because they feared of the prophecy being spread. But still, the family that had the book, told what it was, and there were a couple of people who knew this. So yeah, maybe Xi Jinping has saw this book, but he definitely knew about this book. And there's another prophecy that's even more famous, and it's let me make this smaller. So I think it's okay. Well, it's called the 推背图, or the pushback diagram. It's written by Li Chunfeng and Yuan Tiangang, 2 famed astrologists from the Tang Dynasty. They were ordered by one of China's famous emperors, the Tang Emperor Taizong, to write a prophecy book to warn future generations. Right? And this book has accurately predicted many historical events. I'm not going into that because this program is not about prophecy, but I want to talk about the 46 diagram of this book. And here's the image and then the text. So it's like every diagram has a picture, and then it has some text written in a classic poem format. And this is what it reads. I translate it for you, okay? And says, there was a soldier. I'll read the second paragraph. There was a soldier with a bow who only announced a white-headed man. In the eastern gate, what does it say? In the eastern gate, he ambushed with a golden sword, and the warrior entered the palace through the back door. And then the 2 lines above it said, no casualties of 10,000 people, but 1 person cannot escape. So meaning there will not be, the 10,000 people will be saved, but 1 person will not escape this. So we know it's very obvious what it's saying, right? It mentioned a soldier, it mentioned a weapon, it mentioned that it's going to take place in a palace, implying that the ruler is at risk and that 1 man will die. Now, this white-headed man, if I may show you here, I spent some time doing this graph. So it mentioned Bai Tou Ong, which is white-headed man, the 3 characters on the top. So I circled, Xi Jinping's name is in traditional font is Xi. It's in the lower half. I circled the red is feather, and then his name on the top is feather. The green circle on the bottom is white. So his name is white feather. White feather refers to Xi. Okay. And so you see Bai Tou Ong, white-headed man, the Chinese on the top. You have the feather, the red circle. You have the white, the green circle. And then you have the yellow circle, which is man. So the white-headed man basically is white-feathered man. That is Xi Jinping. No matter how you look at it, white-headed man is Xi Jinping, right? Just by, if you break this apart, it's just so obvious. So this poem, if you read it, it's scary. I mean, if it's basically, if you, it says, it has everything. It has Xi Jinping's name in it. It mentioned a soldier with a weapon. It mentioned that it's taking place in a palace. A ruler is at risk. One man will die, and he went through the back door, and there's an ambush. Some people even comment on the golden sword, and they say, "Is that the rocket force?" Because at the time when the poem was written, there was no, I mean, there's no rocket force, but people are saying, "Well, is that the rocket force, the golden sword?" Anyways, but a mutiny or a coup d'état is clearly spelled out here in this very famous Chinese prophecy book. And I think these lines have a tremendous emotional burden or impact on Xi Jinping, particularly in the aftermath of what has happened in June, right, in Russia, between Prigozhin and Putin. So these prophecies, it has a huge impact on him. And these are, I only gave you two prophecies. There are other ones that are more or less saying the same thing. I think Xi Jinping is near a mental breakdown if he didn't already have one. The number of meetings that Xi Jinping personally presided over has significantly decreased this year. So if we compare the number of meetings he personally presided over from January to the time before Beidaihe meeting, because that's their summer break. So from January up until like mid-July or the last week of July. In 2018, before the pandemic, he presided over 59 meetings. This year, he presided only 38 meetings. So it's 21 meetings less, and that's 36% less. And he was also noticeably absent from the public for 2 weeks, or at least 2 weeks, between the Beidaihe meeting and going to South Africa. I think it's more than 2 weeks. So if Beidaihe ended it at the end of July, he went to South Africa on the 21st. That's 3 weeks. Now let's talk about his mental state. There have been posts on social media citing various encounters people had, or CCP leaders or officials had with him at Beidaihe, and they all point to his troubling mental state. When I first read them a week or more than a week ago, I didn't thought too much. I thought they were, they cannot be all wrong. But by the same token, they cannot be all very accurate. But we have to take it with a grain of salt. So I think there's some truth to it, but there's also probably some exaggerations in it. But with everything that's happened, I think we should take note of what's being said, because it shows us his mental state. One post, do I have it here? Okay, so here's a post saying that Xi Jinping has gone insane in Beidaihe, because he said, are you guys going to be happy? Okay, do I have to die so that you guys are happy? That's what this post said. So this post quoted Xi Jinping saying in Beidaihe to his subordinates, or the people who work for him or under him, saying that, do you have to wait? Do you want me to die so that you're happy? Okay, so this is one post. And there are other posts that I read that said sometimes he's just doesn't want to go to a meeting. So he called Li Qiang saying that, could you, host a meeting? I'm not going to that meeting. And so Li Qiang did that. And then on the day of the meeting, he showed up. And when he saw Li Qiang was hosting the meeting, he got upset and he said, "Well, what are you why are you sitting in that seat, hosting the meeting?" So these people who work for him or people who are very close to him are very nervous right now. This most dramatic post got to be this one. All right, this one. And this post said that he was mad at people and basically swore at everyone, including his Politburo Standing Committee members and others who worked for him. This is the post, the original post. It's really long, and I just kind of cut it in half and post it side by side. For those of you who read Chinese, maybe you can appreciate this. Okay, I'll translate for you. So basically, he swore at everyone, and he concluded that these people were all useless, and there were no real men. He said that he has had enough, and whoever wanted to take over should go right ahead, and he needed to take a break. He said that he's human too, and he complained that everyone went to him with all sorts of problems, but he said he was not a god, meaning that he does not have all the answers for people's problems. He swore at the financial companies, he swore at the banks, he swore at the real estate developers, he swore at CCP officials for having no moral conscience, who have depleted state assets through corruption, leaving behind piles of debts and time bombs. He swore at his predecessors, Deng Xiaoping, Jiang Zemin, and Hu Jintao, for being irresponsible and reckless, passing down a ticking time bomb to him. And now the time bomb is going to detonate in his hands. The post described him as being mad. And he said, none of you, expletive, won't repeat that. None of you, son of, whatever, will escape this. He said the bomb will blow up this Chinese Communist Party, and with that, and only with that gone, only with the party gone, that the Chinese nation can truly revive or can revive. And the post said that he spent time alone on the beach, reciting poems, laughing and cursing. People were afraid to talk to him, and no one dared to mention the word psychiatrist. His wife stayed with him, trying to comfort him, and she seemed to be the only one who could talk to him. That's the post. Now, let me come back. I think that's the end of the post. It's hard for me to verify all these posts. Like I said, I think there's some level of exaggeration, but to some extent, I think that's a fairly close depiction of his mental state. Because I think it is actually what he thought, by blaming the problem on his predecessors. One thing is certain, that Xi Jinping is fully aware of the prophecies related to him and the number of people who are opposing him. And those have created, and that on top of that, the economic time bombs that even Joe Biden talked about, and the level of uprising among the people against him and against the regime, all of that have taken a toll on his mental health. I think any normal person, if put in his position under that kind of pressure, would have gone crazy, right? So if you look at anything that can go wrong has gone wrong. Anyone who wouldn't oppose him is opposing him, except his direct family. But with that said, I know there are a lot of people who want to believe that the man is already crazy. but that's not my assessment. I think he's mentally, emotionally tormented, and you could see, and I think he's about to, what is it, lay flat, and I think he's almost has adopted the mentality of let it rot. Remember that expression, let it rot. You could tell by his very slow paced his gait, walking down the red carpet. You could tell that he has this I don't really care, or what am I going to do, that kind of a mentality. But I do want to caution that I think he is not entirely irrational, because his assessment of his predicament is somewhat accurate. He did inherit the economic problems from his predecessors. He aggravated it, but he wasn't the one who created the problems in the first place. The problems didn't start with him. The problems started way back when Deng Xiaoping declared black cat or white cat or black cat, any cat that can catch a mouse is a good cat. When Deng Xiaoping sent that message, that means matters of principles aren't important as long as there's money to be made. Without principles, without abolishing the communist rule and establishing rule of law and undergoing real political reforms, there has been no real economic reforms in China. People have seen that. There's always a positive, no matter how bad a situation is, there's always a positive side. So even though he uttered some crazy words, the man of ideological faith has started to realize that the party or the CCP is not worth him saving. I think you could tell that from his words, and it cannot be saved. I think that to me is a positive sign, because his mistake is he's trying to save. I think from his perspective, he's trying to save his country from this corrupt officials before him, but he didn't realize the very source of corruption is the Communist Party. It wasn't those officials, it was the party. So if he has realized that the party is not worth saving and cannot be saved and will be blown up anyways, and he said, only when the party is blown up, all of you guys are going to blow up, all you corrupt people are going to be blown up. Only with that, the real revival of Chinese nation will start. I think he got it right? He got that right. So there is some positive signs that he's not entirely crazy. I think I don't like to always, I think there's always another side, right? When there's a positive side, there's a negative side. When there's a negative side, there's a positive side. You have to look at everything holistically. But okay, I want to end you with a video. He is fully aware that the world took note of his absurd absence at BRICS and his emotional torment, or his fear of death, or fear of his paranoia over his security, or his fear of being assassinated, whatever you call that. He is aware that the world is aware of that. So he's trying to make an effort to show that he's normal. Because guess what? Today, the South African government released a video on its website. And I'm going to play you this video. The video is, I uploaded that video. A video is about him and the South African president watching some Chinese, Chinese drummers, some young ladies from South Africa playing Chinese drums. Hold on, let me start from the beginning.
Well done. 你们这个是中国鼓吗？
This is Chinese kind of drum.
跟谁学的呢？
是主席您好，我们是佛光山南华寺在台湾的，专门促成中华文化在各国的传播。所以我们的鼓是专门在中国和台湾请的教练。
台湾请来的。
对。
哇。
所以他们今天非常的高兴。
中国鼓。
Yes. Wow, this is good. Very good. Thank you. Very good.
我这个鼓呢，它这个一个是在庆祝一些活动的时候，它有这个氛围；还有一个就是这个战斗中的，战斗。
The drumming is great for celebrating some events or for agitating for action.
中国也出过很多巾帼英雄啊。
In China, there have been many great female heroes, and I see many today.
你们非常有激情。
Wow, you've done the drumming with great rhythm and
You
vigor.
understand Chinese?
Yes.
Wow. That's very good. Okay, now we take a picture with you. We take a picture with you. Yes, okay. Come.
Okay. Now, oops, sorry. Okay, now let me come back. Let me get rid of that. So you see how he didn't react to Taiwan, and I think this is fascinating. Yeah, their coach is from Taiwan, and the organization is Taiwan, is Taiwan Buddhist Temple, and he didn't react to Taiwan and China. So some Chinese, when they saw this video, they say, well, we should reference this video next time when the CCP talks tough on Taiwan, because their leader seems to be okay, right? And I think this video is intentionally released today to dispel rumors that Xi Jinping's health had problem, or his mental health had problems, or he is whatever, because this piece was nice, warm, he's personable, he interacted with the drummers, and I just want to say, I think, like I said, the man is tormented. He has a deeply rooted fear for his future because of those prophecies, because of all the problems that's going on in China, because of, and he has said, he knew that people want him to die. But on the other hand, this man is very strong, and this man hasn't entirely, lost his mental strength. And so I just think all we have to do is, keep watching to see what happens next. I just think it's, we need to stay on top of that. Okay, I have presented a lot of information. I hope it makes sense to you. All right, let me see if people have questions for me. All right. Okay. Wow. It's a lot of information to gather and to spell out in 40 minutes. From Charles Womack. Is Xi officially called chairman like Mao was? If not, what's his official? Well, he's the Secretary General. He's not officially declared the chairman. I mean, the only chairman title he holds is the chairman of the Central Military Commission. But the position he holds within the party is the Secretary General. He does not hold the chairman position. Mao Zedong held that position, and Hu Yaobang held that position for a while. And then Deng Xiaoping didn't like it. He got rid of that. Because Deng Xiaoping didn't hold the chairman position. Deng Xiaoping did not hold any, didn't hold the party position. So he kind of stopped the CCP leader from having that title. So from Hu Yaobang onward, they only held the title of Secretary General. At one point during the 20th Party Congress, there were talks about reviving that title, the chairman title for Xi Jinping, but it didn't happen. So this woman obviously was trying to, make Xi Jinping happy. But it's not wrong to call him chairman because he's the chairman of the military commission. All right, let me see. Questions for me? I'll go through the super chats questions first. I'm going to go through them real fast. All right, here's from Jeff Ramos. Remember that you told us about the stone, big scripture that predicted CCP demise? Maybe the birds were all the previous present administration trying to take Taiwan. The last one fails. Yes, I made a video. I actually already pasted. I made a video about the prophecies that predicted the downfall of the CCP. The video was published in January 17th. I pasted the link already in the description. If you want to, get more information on the prophecies, you should watch that video. Yes, there was a stone that said the demise of the Chinese Communist Party. Maybe you're saying that maybe the birds were all the previous present administration trying to take Taiwan. When you say administration, you really, because it's not, it's really the leaders. There were 4 CCP leaders before Xi Jinping, and they each corresponds to an administration. Maybe, yeah, if you look at it that way, you can say that. All right, let me see. Okay, from Ptolemy Salamanca. Could you do a separate video on the previously mentioned prophecies? They look very fascinating. Do a separate video on the previously mentioned. You mean, but I already talked about the prophecies. You want me to do another video, meaning tell you, I've told you everything that I knew about those prophecies, but there are other prophecies, but the most prominent ones are already spelled out there. But I didn't, in the prophecy video, I didn't talk about the military coup. This one, the one I told you tonight, but it's in the same prophecy book. This one, is about a military coup. It's just so obvious. No one can ignore that. It has everything. You know how sometimes when they write prophecies, it's just so vague, they have to guess, well, it could mean this, it could mean that. There's so many possible interpretations, but this one is like so black and white, so that's why I think he's very scared. I'll try, if people are interested in prophecies, I'll make another program. Thank you, boy Kachina. Thank you for the donation. All right, DJ Liquid Smoke. Did you see what Vivek said about Taiwan? No, what did he say? Well, tell me about it. All right, that seems to be the end of the super chats. I'll answer some of the other questions from Jaden Cash. Hey, Lei, do you believe the CCP believes it will become the #1 superpower? Do I believe that they believe? When you say CCP, are you talking about the CCP leaders at the very top, including Xi Jinping himself? I don't think at this point Xi Jinping believes that. I don't think the CCP officials believe that either. But they will try, but they will keep saying that because that's their goal, that's their ambition, and they won't give up their ambition. They will do everything they can to realize that goal, however long that takes, right? If it's 100 years, 200 years, they will still aim for that goal. All right, Texas Panda. Could you cover the credit knife men from last year and what is going on now in another video, whether their statement came true? Yeah, the credit knife men from last year, I heard about it. I have not been looking into that. Sure, I'll keep that in mind. Yep. All right, let me see. Any other questions? Nick Furry. According to China Update, the consensus is that China property market can no longer be saved. I agree. I don't think the Chinese property market can be saved. No, it's beyond redemption. It's already out of control. But when it goes down, it will bring down the local government and the banking sector. It will reset. I think it will reset China, the Chinese economy, back to the beginning of the millennia, 20 years before China joined the WTO. That's my assessment. And because of that, the world economy will suffer. The belief that China will go down economically and then the US will have minimal impact, I think that assumption is very idealistic because the economies are too intertwined. So, of course, we won't suffer as much as the Chinese do, but there will be repercussions globally because the entire world has chipped in to help the CCP to grow this bubble, this gigantic bubble that's not based on any principles or any rules of anything. And now, to some extent, we're all responsible for it. We allowed it to happen in front of our eyes. We participated. We ignored all the problems. I mean, to this date, people are still talking about, the economists of the world are still talking about China's GDP projected at whatever percentage, I mean, I think when the reality kicked in, there will be a lot of tears. Seriously. But I think it would be good for people to reflect on all the mistakes we made collectively, right? You can't just say, well, the CCP is so bad. They didn't do this alone. They didn't create this bubble alone. We let it happen in front of our eyes. There's so many people believing the Chinese real estate market when even Xi Jinping knew that it was not sustainable. So he put out the three red lines, and he said, houses are for people to live in. It's not for speculation, not for market speculation. His intention is trying to stop the bubble. He's trying to stop the problem. But people, I mean, I saw economists accuse him for being, how to say, going backwards on economic development. But he knew the bubble is going to, cause, a tsunami, an economic tsunami. But people still pretended that the problem didn't exist, that Xi Jinping could prevent the bubble from happening. He knew he couldn't. If you connected the dots, you would know that the bubble is beyond redemption. All right. Oh, let me see. Are there questions? Dave Wem, you are great. We don't get that info otherwise. Well, thank you. All right. Let me see. From Mitsu, looking at communism over everything with its idiosyncrasy, I liken it economically to feudalism. It's with technological characteristics. Would you agree? It's not feudalism. I mean, feudalism, China went through a long history with, a feudalistic society, but it was benign because traditional Chinese believe a harmonious coexistence with the heaven. And the emperor, it was a feudalistic society with the emperor, but the emperor is believed to be sent by the heaven. He's the son of the heaven. So he is above his, the emperor is the highest ranking person on earth, or in his kingdom, in his empire, but he's watched by the heaven. So there's a lot of rules and regulations governing the emperors in the ancient time, and those rules came from the heavens. And it wasn't easy to be an emperor in the ancient days because there's so many things they could and could not do. They were highly regulated. I mean, there are also bad emperors that just, were reckless, but the good emperors know that they have a job to work for their people. So the problem wasn't feudalistic society. And in the feudalistic society, like the landlords were the local governors that run the countryside. So it was an organic form of government, and Chinese people believe in the harmony of it's a harmonious coexistence. And Confucius taught Chinese how to develop harmonious relations between sons and parents, among siblings. How do you develop a relations with your superior? How people should have should develop a healthy relation with their ruler. I mean, Confucius has left behind many wisdoms to help the Chinese to deal with a feudalistic society. So that wasn't the problem. But the communists got rid of all of that and then replace it with this extreme, I would say terrorist ideology, like everything is based on revolution, class struggle, enemies. Everyone is an enemy and they have to fight, to earn everything. It's just very, very extreme. It's a very, extremist ideology. Thank you, donation from Thorndup. I don't, Andrustan. Thank you very much for the generous donation. I hope I pronounced your name right. All right, thank you. Wow, there are a lot of, Jeff Ramos. Does she care Chinese people? I mean, at the end, if there are no Chinese people, then no country, effectively killing his motherland. I think the problem, from his perspective, he thinks he cares. But from our perspective, from the Chinese people, we think he doesn't care. I think what is caring? I think under the Chinese communist rule, the communist ideology, people no longer know what caring for others mean. Right? Sometimes we already lost the ability to care for each other because of the brainwashing, because of the constant emphasis of politics, of being politically correct. And then that's more important than caring for each other. So we have lost that ability. Yo Ming, thank you, Yo Ming. All right, Sumilan. Oh, that was not addressed to me. I've talked for more than an hour. This is a long presentation. I think I'm going to take a break. I'm a little tired, but thank you very much for joining me. And stay well, and I'll see you next time. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.